Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Curry, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. So I was on Instagram and I saw a video of these two ladies that are actually battling out. This woman came up and said, "You know what? I fucking hate doing 9 to 5s. I hate having to go to work. Work is pretty shit. I'd rather be at home, uh, have a husband, look after my children, and that will be fulfilling." And this other lady goes, "Holy shit, what you talking about? With women has fought very hard to be within the workforce. It's us regressing back to something that we shouldn't be." So you could see these extreme arguments of this woman really pushing feminism and this guy lady pushing almost traditional wife, which was interesting because with the way I view it is that women have been lied to in terms of what feminism is. In this day and age, I've got no worries that my daughter is going to grow up and not be, she's got every opportunity to be successful, as long as she builds the skill and she's got a valuable skill and she gets paid for it. And I think it doesn't matter what workforce she goes into, she will. I hope she's actually picked based off skill rather than she's being picked based on gender. I would rather she is, you know, somebody who contributes skill, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that um, I don't think there's any place for feminism, and there's no place where a woman should see themselves as equal to a man. They're not. And I'll say that again. They're not. They're not. They're not because, again, from a physical standpoint, they have periods, they have children, they can carry children for 9 months, and so that already is a massive difference. In terms of reproductive organs, and then the other parts is that, if you look at the demograph in terms of what sort of jobs women go for versus what men go for. Generally, women will go for certain types of jobs that won't be as high paying and not as highly skilled as compared to men. And again, sometimes the ones that are highly skilled that are really dirty and so on. For example, I'm an engineer and it's not a glamorous job, but very highly paid. In fact, from outside looking in, it looks like a highly paid, but from an engineer's perspective, we're underpaid based off of the stuff that we do. Anyways, not the point. But what I'm trying to say is that when you now hear some of this stuff, this is where feminism talks about, where they talk about the gender pay gap. Generally, most women would never be able to do what we do as engineers. Most women that start off in engineering, which is a weird stat, which I found out recently, is that they do start off in engineering, but usually they've got a time span of about 4 or 5 years within that span. Now, I don't know whether it's because it's a male-dominated industry, so they feel some sort of inferiority, but generally they don't stay because it's just of the demands on, from a mental perspective and in the physical perspective. Again, a lot of the stuff that we do it under pressure. You have to think on the fly. You have to be have the ability to be combative. So, for example, if the machine stops and I'm figuring out and I'm trying to work out how to get this thing running, if somebody is under pressure because they have a bonus that they're trying to get to, I need to tell them to fuck off and get me to do my job. So again, you need that sort of part of you to be able to execute a job. Therefore, this is why you find women not being able to cope very well in those environments, because you have to be really masculine, you have to be really dominant. And I'm straying off my point here. So these women were arguing, both of them, and I took the side of the lady that is more of the treadwife type thing. I think she's got a very good idea around this, because when women when it comes to life in general, and this is how I view things. A lot of things I view it based off of the last moments of life. So in last moments of life, what are the things that you're going to look at and think as regret? And I started thinking like this because I used to spend a lot of time with old people, and a lot of the old people became my friends. And it was really common for me to have be friends with somebody, and then come back from school and then they would have passed away. I would remember some of those conversations I would have had before that. And a large chunk of them now, as I recall them, there was a lot of regret, a lot of regret. And it was based off of the life choices that they'd made. And some of them were life choices that they made based off of a movement, like feminism, for example. And they devoted their life to this because they had this belief system that they thought was going to give them a good outcome. But what it did, end of life, was that they were alone and sad. And again, it was just that's the investment that they gave. They got into the corporate world. They were successful. They chose not to have children, or they did have children, but they never spent time with their children, which is different to a wife that's devoted to husband and children. That when they invest in those relationships and they continue to continuously invest in those relationships. In fact, let me just pause that one for a second. Unfortunately, society does view the career woman as more valuable than the trade wife. I mean, it's just how things are now. Even women themselves, they think it's less than to do this. But from an investment standpoint, when you invest your life into gaining money and getting notoriety as you as a woman going up a corporate ladder versus the trade wife who is, when I say trade wife, traditional wife, um, who's investing into the relationships of a husband first and then the children. It is extremely difficult to be in that place because, again, if you look at the what we consider valuable, it seems not valuable, but there is more value in this because at the back end of being a trade wife, you have invested into the relationships with your family to such that the outcome is fulfillment, whereas this other person will not have fulfillment. In fact, when I look at most career women that are within the 60s or getting closer to the retirement age, a lot of them do not have very good relationship with their children. It's just a fact, and I've personally seen it. I would like to know the numbers, what those numbers are in terms of how many of them and are not don't have a really good relationship, and this is going to continue on. In fact, you got to see that there's a weird part about it is that if your kids then become career people, the chances that they will make time for you because you've never made time for them. So when you're now older and you need the time, they're not going to make time for you. It's just because you've invested that. So it's a very strange one, and I know you guys are probably wondering what does this have to do with us. You married these women, and I would argue and say a lot of you guys within sexless relationships, you've married the career woman, and there's something that needs to be done in terms of reframing what devotion looks like to the family, what devotion looks like to the children, and how extremely valuable that is within your relationship, and more importantly, how important it is in terms of fulfillment for your wife. So I'm going to knock it on the head here. Hopefully, it's something that is quite interesting. Sometimes you guys just get a glimpse of how I think about things. By no means, I'm not saying I'm the true. I'm the this is it's my way or the highway. You guys can think about it the way you want to think about it. But I do think that we are suffering collateral damage based off of the freedom that we have given women. Not that they didn't need freedom; they're already free, but they still feel like they need freedom. I don't know from what, but that freedom has got a negative impact on what we call the family, and a lot of these women later on in life will regret all these decisions that they've made, including your wives who are not investing into your relationship with you and not investing in the relationship with the children because they're spending most of the time at work. Just a simple fact. That's how it is. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.